Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day life. Let's start with the video.
I've 24F been with my fiancé 26M for almost 7 years, but have known each other for 8 years. I've known his dad, stepdad, and brother for about the same time as I met them when we were still friends. I didn't meet his grandparents until we'd been together for 2 years. We got engaged a year ago and plan to marry at the end of this year. At first, I loved his father and stepfather. They were party people and we were young, so we always went out to clubs with them, etc. As we got older, I started seeing them differently. My fiancé's father, Bert, 48M, and his husband, Fred, 41M, started saying slightly racist things. When we'd all go out to a restaurant together, Bert and Fred would just sit and make fun of people. "She's too fat to wear that. Oh, what's wrong with her teeth?" They turned into these judgmental a-holes, to be honest. I pointed out how rude they were being, and they started on me. Unfortunately, I wasn't brave or confident, so I never stood up to them again. But I did limit my contact with them. Then, one day 3 years ago, my fiancé was having a disagreement with his dad, and I jumped in to help mediate. Which wasn't smart, but I was 20 and had good intentions. Immediately, Bert attacked me, called me ugly, a fat pig, even threw in some racial stuff, etc. It turned into a big family thing, with everyone basically shizzing on us. Since that incident, I've been no contact with him. My fiancé was as well for a while, but has recently started talking to them again, which I'm not happy about, but also this isn't my family. Well, the guest list has come up during wedding planning, and I almost immediately threw out that I don't want his dads at the wedding. My fiancé was very understanding about it and agrees because I've never received an apology for the nasty things he said. My fiancé broke the news to them and they lost it. They think I'm an entitled B trying to break their family up. They said it happened a year ago and I need to move on. His grandparents have joined the fight and have been calling me some very disrespectful and disgusting slurs. My mom thinks I should be the bigger person and invite them to keep the peace, but I don't want these people near me. I can't imagine how they'll behave at a wedding, especially mine. This whole situation has drained me, and I don't even want a wedding anymore. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, after reading all of your comments, I decided to sit down with my boyfriend for dinner and bring up the topic again. I asked him if he told his family that I didn't want them there, that we didn't, or that he didn't. He said he told him it was my decision because of the things that happened. I asked him why he felt it was okay to continue a relationship with me after what they did and said. He told me that they're his family at the end of the day and he feels like he needs to have a relationship with them. I asked why he felt that it was okay for them to apologize to him and not to me for what they did. He said that they hurt him as well when they attacked me and they seemed sincere about their apology, to which I responded, "But I haven't even gotten an apology." We went back and forth until I realized that this just isn't what I want anymore, for these big reasons and combined with a few small ones. It seems like a good bit of you were right that this wouldn't work out and we weren't on the same page. There is no more need for wedding invitations as there won't be one. Thank you all for your help. Not the a-hole at all, but these people will be your family and it seems your partner wants them involved in his life. Your partner sounds somewhat supportive, but these people are going to be your family. I actually refused a proposal from my eldest father's largely because his family were terrible to me. There were other reasons as well, but the thought of dealing with his family, having children with those people as grandparents, I just couldn't do it to myself or any future children I had. My ex was all about keeping the peace. Agreed with me in private, yet when it counted, he straddled the fence and never properly stood up to me against his family. I honestly think you need to realistically consider the long-term ramifications of this family. Only you know how supportive your partner is and whether he'll take a stand. The way his father's treated you is disgusting, and I wouldn't want people like that at my wedding either. If my family had treated a potential fiancé of mine like that, I wouldn't want them at my wedding either. Nope, not the a-hole. You're not obligated to invite anyone to the wedding, especially people who spew racist comments at you. It's your day, spend it with the people you love and who love you. If you really want to see if they've changed, go out with them in public after your wedding. A wedding is not a place to reconcile, so do not invite them and expect for it to be a peace offering. But you're under zero obligation to let these people back into your life if you don't want to. Make sure you talk about this with your fiancé beforehand. He seems like he's on your side and understands, but you don't want to find out later he disagrees with you and have it cause issues in your relationship. Not the a-hole. Your fiancé is supportive of it, and if his family is using racial slurs and is that trash, who knows what they're going to do at the wedding. This is what your future looks like, and if you have or want children, what their future will look like with that family. They're verbally abusive. Cutting people off will always hurt and tear people apart. But if your fiancé is supportive and y'all have talked about it, I'm unsure why you're even asking. Next story. I, 30M, have a younger brother, 26M. Ever since I turned 18, I was living on my own. I have a nicely paying part-time job while attending a college funded by scholarships. My mother and father have money and have always spoiled my younger brother. When I was going to apply for college, I talked to them about the college payment. They refused and said that they are tight on money. They weren't. Fast forward, I'm 29 and finally have my own apartment. It is my own and not rented. I saved enough, plus some money I took from friends. My salary is big enough to pay the mortgage and buy something nice and fancy sometimes. I have a 2-bedroom apartment, one bigger and one smaller, both connected to a living room and an open kitchen. About 6 months ago, my brother lost his job, thus losing the ability to pay his rent. He called me asking to stay until he can find a job. I agreed. We weren't that close, but I knew the situation was tight. So I let him live with me. Not a week after moving in, he started acting bossy. He didn't clean his own room, didn't do his dishes, ate all my food, and played on the PS all day. He brought his own. I don't have a PS. I called him out of this, and he said that he was tired and wanted a break. I sucked it up. 2 months later, he started dating some girl from Tinder, and she moved in with him. They both started complaining about the room being small, and they wanted me to switch rooms with them, to which I immediately refused, and they got mad. The next day, I was just coming home from work, and they were in the middle of moving my stuff out of my room and putting theirs in. I lost it and started yelling to put my things back. He laughed and just continued. I told them I am leaving for the grocery store, and when I'm back, I want my things back in my room. I especially slowed down more and came home again in an hour. All of my things were out, and he had changed the lock on my door. They were locked in, and when I yelled, they laughed and said, "What are you gonna do about it?" I told them to get out of my apartment and never come back, and if they didn't leave right then and there, I would call the police. They laughed again. So I did. I called the police. 10 minutes later, 2 police officers arrive. I show them I own the place and my brother and his girlfriend are not on the lease. They started banging on the door and eventually my brother got out. I told them to pack and leave right now. He started begging, but I refused. About an hour later, he packed everything and was out. A few hours later, I got a call from my parents telling me I was an a-hole. We went back and forth with insults, and eventually they spit it out that they didn't want him in because if they paid for him, they can't save enough for their yearly cruise. I got mad and hung up on the spot. I have about 90% of my family members calling me an a-hole for kicking him out. The other 10% are on my side. Am I the a-hole? Dude, what the F? You let him move in and don't charge him rent. He messes the place up, bosses you around, and has a girl move in with him, and they steal your bedroom, and your parents call you an a-hole because you're kicking him out when the only reason they won't take him in is because they want to go on their yearly cruise? Not the a-hole. Your brother is a piece of work and clearly cut from the same cloth as your parents. Oh my god. Not the a-hole. What the F? They moved all the stuff out of your room and changed the lock to your door in your house? Get a restraining order and block them on all social media too. Boo-hoo, poor mommy and daddy can't afford to take him in because they're saving for some shizzy cruise. Too bad. Cruise is cancelled and they have to accommodate their star child. Not the a-hole. Wow, that's some heavy entitlement. You went out of your way to help him out and he abused that. You were well within your rights to kick him out, and he beyond deserved it. With any luck, he'll learn that no one owes him and there are consequences to his actions. But I don't believe in luck. He's probably going to be a spoiled brat for life. Congrats on no longer having to put up with him. Here's the next story. 2 weeks ago, a girl briefly dated last summer who had ghosted me after agreeing to meet for my birthday randomly WhatsApped me. We called, and since we know each other, we agreed to meet at the metro station 2 minutes from my place and head back there to share some wine. I remember clearly saying to her, "Okay, see you at 7 p.m. tomorrow night at X place," as I had an essay I was working on. I also knew to be clear with meeting times and places. She replied, "Okay." My plan was to wrap up studying at 6:30 p.m., spruce myself up, and be out of the house by 6:45 p.m. to get on the metro station car park. She drives well ahead of time. On the phone, she mentioned how she got off work at 5:30 and would come up after. I set things up ready. Considering her work is a good 25-minute drive from where we were going to meet, I figured all was good. Early in the evening, I sit down to write, turn off my phone, and put it in a timed lockbox in another room to concentrate. I'd set the timer slightly longer than I'd wanted by accident, but it was due to disengage at 6:35 to 40 p.m. anyway. At 6:30 p.m., I sent her a message on WhatsApp web, accessible without my phone, saying I couldn't get to my phone for 10 minutes, but if she needed to call or text me, I'd keep the WhatsApp web open. Didn't deliver. Because I couldn't get to my phone right away and thinking I still had nearly 10 to 25 minutes, I got ready and at 6:38 p.m. finally got to my iPhone to text her that I was leaving soon. What I saw on my phone left me confused. She had tried calling twice, once at 6:23 p.m. and another 30 minutes later. She had also texted me "I'm here" and then a second text angrily saying I'm leaving after call 2. I saw that second text 2 minutes after she sent it. I called her back and she picked up. I tried stressing the point that I clearly stated a meeting time of 7 p.m. I can't help it if she turns up over 30 minutes earlier than that when I'm doing something else. She told me that when she said when she got off work around 6:30 p.m., that meant she would be there at 6:30 p.m. Go figure. She then goes off on me about not picking up, and I tell her about having my phone locked away in another room while I work, sending her a photo. She then starts saying how she drove all this way to see me, I wasted her time, and that she already made plans to go see a friend because I'd not shown up. I said that I could have A, given her my exact flat address, and B, had my phone more accessible. I did, however, also point out that around the same time she arrived, I sent her a message via the medium we had been exclusively exchanging messages, WhatsApp web, telling her about the phone being put away. I also stressed that she had only been driving for 2 minutes and that we could still make something of tonight. She turned this down and I calmly ended the call. Heard nothing since. Not the a-hole. I had a friend who did this years ago. Let's call her friend 1. Me and friends 2 to 4 organized her birthday lunch and mini party at friend 2's house. We all brought presents and cake. Time to start was 7 p.m. and friend 2 had decorated. We agreed to get there at 6:30 to put out food and gifts. Friend 1 arrives at 5:30, friend 2 hasn't even finished work yet, waits 8 minutes and then says as no one let her in, she had moved on to her next destination. We had a party anyway and still can't figure it out, but we didn't stay in touch with her after that. Not the a-hole. You communicated clearly the time you would be there and how she could reach you, but if she was confused and therefore understandably but unjustifiably mad, you tried to clear it up and she was still butthurt. My guess is that this girl has a problem with you having a life. In her head, you should have been waiting eagerly all day for her arrival, not just making sure you get there in time. Some people are like that. Had you continued dating, she probably would have tried cutting you off from your friends, family, and hobbies. It's not something to want out of a relationship. You did everything right, though. Here's the next story. I have a stepsister named Jane. Growing up, I got a lot more material things than Jane, due to having both parents involved in my life, and my dad making more money than hers. This led to extreme jealousy from Jane and a lot of acting out, hunger strikes to the point she had to be hospitalized, getting in trouble at school, and bouts of refusing to speak to anyone in the house. Jane was also extremely beautiful, and I always felt in her shadow due to that. Sometimes I feel like my mom was more on Jane's side than mine because she used to tear up and say how bad she felt for Jane and how awful it must be watching me get those things. She even considered moving out of the house for a couple of years so Jane didn't have to look at my things. Once, when Jane was throwing a fit, my mom snapped at her to stop because life isn't fair. And I probably want her looks just as badly as she wants my things. But life just isn't fair, and she can't have them, and I can never be as beautiful as Jane. My mom tried to brush it off after the fact and said no one will ever be as pretty as Jane, so it isn't a big deal. That is something that has always stayed with me. Jane ran away and we didn't see her for years, but she's back in our lives now, and it kind of still bothers me. Jane got married a few years ago, and it was a huge, lavish affair. And my mom spent a week in Greece for it, so she has already had the whole mother of the bride experience. I plan on going wedding dress shopping soon and decided I don't want my mom because she made that comment which really messed up my self-esteem when I was a teenager. I just feel like my own mom is the one person who shouldn't say that. I told her that I'm planning on going dress shopping with my bridesmaids, and I told her why, but she cried and said I was being unfair, and she just said that to calm Jane down. She begged me to reconsider. My stepdad sent me a guilt-tripping text, and apparently Jane is furious and talking shiz. Not the a-hole. Your wedding, your dress, your sanity, your confidence. I get where you're coming from. You want to feel extremely beautiful on your wedding day, and the last thing you really want is someone who, whether they meant it or not, compared you to another child in the family. It's rude, it's hurtful, and it's something a mother should never do, even if it is to calm someone else down. Additionally, if you cave into the guilt, the fact that you've already said no thanks will be held over your head, no matter what you do. So stick to your guns. This will only give them one thing to talk about instead of, remember the time you tried to tell your mom she couldn't be part of your wedding dress shopping and then you realized we were all right and you were being ridiculous? It will be framed with that attitude in mind. Not the a-hole. It sounds like there's a lot of anger and hurt on your part towards your mom. Honestly, it sounds like she tried hard with both you and her stepdaughter. I get that what she said was hurtful, but you need to decide if it's more important to be right and punish your mom, letting the tumultuous years you all endured in your blended family continue to create hurt and bitterness, or use this as an opportunity to start fresh with your mom. Heart goes out to all of you.